You are tuning into AWANI Tonight with me, Farhana Sheikh. Sarawak elections campaign hitting final stretch. Will voters turn up to cast their votes? And are we doing enough to make schools safe for children? That's coming up. The Dewan Rakyat has approved the federal government's 2022 budget. The 332.5 billion ringgit supply bill, the largest in the nation's history to date, was passed through a voice vote after it was tabled and read for the third time by Finance Minister Tengku Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz. MPs have been debating on the bill at committee stage since November 22nd, with each ministry's budget passed through voice votes. It was the first budget since the Perikatan National Administration came into power in August this year. Of the total, 236.5 billion ringgit will be channeled to operating expenditures, 69 billion ringgit to development expenditures, and 17 billion ringgit to the COVID-19 fund. Some 10,400 voters will cast their ballots in early voting for the Sarawak State election tomorrow. We speak to Senior Fellow from National Professors Council, Dr. Generic Amir, to find out more on voter sentiment on the ground and if the Election Commission is too optimistic, as it expects at least 70% of voters to come out to vote on Saturday.
The highest turnout for state election in Sarawak was in 1969 when it was at 80%, and the lowest was in 2006 at 63%. Having set the target at 70% this time around, to me it's quite optimistic. The more realistic target is 60 to 65%, bearing in mind various constraints under SOP for this coming state election. And only 64 state seats were allowed, whereby the election machinery were allowed to have face-to-face campaign. And it is really a daunting task, taking into consideration there are about 6,000 villages and longhouses in Sarawak. It is pertinent for 1.25 million voters to turn out or go to the polling stations come this Saturday on the 18th of December, because they need to fully utilize the rights as voters, and therefore various strategic political strategies need to be fully utilized for the next few days. In the next few days, social media, including Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, I think is very important. And apart from that, election machinery has to be fully utilized. And in this sense, GPS, I believe, has the upper hand because they have branches all over the places as compared to other political parties, especially parties like new parties like Aspirasi, PBDSB, Sedar, and even PSB. But taking into account all factors, the real fight this time around is between DAP, PSB, and also GPS. Therefore, for the next few days before Saturday, all parties has to put, full force the election machinery to ensure higher turnout.
The Kuching High Court has dismissed a judicial review application filed by 3 youths seeking to exercise their right to vote in the Sarawak State election this Saturday.
18-year-old Avril Claris and 19-year-olds Ivan Alexander Ong and Adam Johansson had, on December 7th, filed a lawsuit via judicial review against the Registrar of Electors for Sarawak and the Election Commission. They were seeking a declaration that they are citizens entitled to vote in any election held after December 15th this year. Their action comes following Undi 18's gazetting on December 15th to be implemented from January next year, whereas the state election on December 18th is using the electoral roll last updated on November 2nd.
2 Interpol Red Notices were issued for fugitives Low Tek Joe and Nick Liao, but are only accessible for viewing by enforcement agencies. Inspector General of Police Tan Sri Akril Sani Abdullah Sani said this to clarify his statement yesterday that the 2 were still not included in the list of wanted individuals.
Akril said this morning that the police applied for and received the red notices for Low on June 11, 2018 and on April 20th this year for Liao. He added that there are 2 categories of red notices issued by the Interpol, one that can be shared and made public, while the other that is limited only for enforcement agencies.
It is disheartening to note that sexual harassment, bullying and period spot check cases are still prevalent in Malaysian schools despite more awareness on the subject. Save the School Malaysia founder Putri Nuraina Balkis said that it is time for those in power to walk the talk and take serious action against such cases of abuse in schools. Based on a survey from 770 student testimonies, 1,145 incidents of sexual harassment, period spot checks, bullying and other abuses were reported. 26% of those surveyed reported multiple incidents of abuse.
One case is already too many, let alone 1,000 plus. So some of the alarming findings that we got from the report, 1,046 from the reported incidents at Save the Schools MY are purely on sexual harassment, which is just proof further that sexual harassment has been way too normalized in schools. And from the findings, close to 25% of the victims are facing negative psychosocial consequences, even until today. So some of them are struggling with their mental health, some of them are struggling with livelihood and social functions.
Victims were as young as 4 to 6 years old, but according to Nuraina, most of the cases were never reported to relevant authorities.
Here's the grim finding from the report. 81.4% of incidents that were reported at my platform, they were never reported or disclosed to anyone but Save the School. So we were the first platform to hear these stories. But we have 237 incidents that were reported, but none of the outcomes were positive. In fact, if these victims are trying to speak up or seek justice on their behalf, they are either not being taken seriously or being victim blamed, and worse, of course, no action taken. And the fact that almost half of the percentage from the incidents, which is like close to 50.3%, incidents, the outcome is like no action taken.
According to Nuraina, the survey also found that abuses happen in all types of schools, from national to private and international schools.
I certainly believe that stricter reinforcement should be in place. We have Akta Kanak-Kanak 2001. We have Akta Kesalahan Seksual Terhadap Kanak-Kanak 2017. What are we doing with these acts? And we even signed United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. So we have expressed our commitment to ensure that our kids are safe. So it's time to walk the talk and actually show them that we care for their well-being.
We will go for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. On to the international front. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Indonesia today, kicking off his Southeast Asia tour. The visit is aimed at strengthening ties in this region that has become a strategic battleground between Washington and Beijing. This is Blinken's first visit to Southeast Asia since U.S. President Joe Biden took office in January. Blinken will pursue Biden's aim of elevating engagement with the ASEAN bloc and discuss Biden's vision for an Indo-Pacific economic framework. The United States and Western allies are pushing back against Beijing's assertiveness in the South China Sea. Blinken is expected to be in Malaysia tomorrow and head to Thailand after during the 4-day visit. Indonesia will start administering COVID-19 vaccinations for children aged between 6 to 11 tomorrow. The country will be among the first in Southeast Asia to immunize the very young.
Indonesia approved China's Sinovac vaccine for the age group last month, the only vaccine approved for children so far. It is targeting to immunize 26.5 million children, starting with the Greater Jakarta area. Besides Indonesia, China has already started vaccinating children aged 3 and above, while Cambodia administered its first vaccines for children aged 6 to 12 in September. Singapore had announced that it will start vaccinating children aged 5 to 11 before the end of this year.
South Korea said it will not join a diplomatic boycott of the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing. President Moon Jae-in said it still needed to work with China and that it had not received a request from any country, including the United States, to participate in the boycott.
Speaking during a visit to Australia, Moon stressed that South Korea wanted to promote a free and open Pacific region, but also had to consider China's role in trying to bring peace to the Korean peninsula. The US, Australia, Britain and Canada have all announced a diplomatic boycott of the Winter Games to protest China's alleged human rights abuses against the Uyghur minority in Xinjiang and its crackdown of democracy in Hong Kong. This means the countries will not send any delegates to the Games, but they are still sending their athletes. China accused the boycotts of violating the Olympic spirit.
A big moment for India as its contestant Harna Sandhu was named Miss Universe at the 70th edition of the annual pageant. The 21-year-old model brought home the crown 21 years after India's Lara Dutta won the title in 2000.
Sandhu beat 80 women from around the world to win the title. Nadia Ferreira of Paraguay came in first runner-up and Lalela Mswan of South Africa took the second runner-up spot. This year's pageant was mired in controversy as it was hosted in the southern city of Eilat in Israel. Activist groups have urged contestants to boycott the event in support of Palestinians. Malaysia did not send a representative, citing the global COVID-19 situation, while the South African government, which supports the Palestinian cause, withdrew support for the country's representative over her participation.
With one of the highest rates of urbanization in Asia, is our approach to public housing keeping pace with the evolving needs of our city's poor? Tonight on Consider This, we speak to our guests on correcting public housing policy failures. That is all we have for you on AWANI tonight. Get the latest news update on COVID-19 and COVID-19 vaccines from astroawani.com and the Astro AWANI app. I'm Farhana Sheikh. We'll see you again.